Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show, discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are.
Welcome, everybody. It is time for the Books That Make You show. I am your host, Desiree Duffy, and today we're talking about books that make you go from staring at a blank document to being an influential author in just 30 days. Is that possible? When we read, we often get that call to write. When we have our creativity sparked, our imaginations expanded, and we realize that we too have something profound and powerful that we can perhaps say. Well, when that happens in our lives, I feel that's one of the greatest moments that a writer has. And if we're a business owner or somebody who is a professional, well, when you can make that happen and combine your professional world with your creative world, ooh, chef's kiss. That's magic, isn't it? But a lot of times there's things that hold us back. Right? What if you don't particularly like writing? That's a big downfall. What if you feel you don't have all those fancy credentials that will get you noticed like so many authors seem to have nowadays? Well, that's where today's guest comes in. Meet Jeremy C. Jones. He is a proud military veteran who is also a family man and an entrepreneur who lives in Paradise Valley, Arizona. His accomplishments include being a 4-time #1 best-selling author on Amazon, hosting the popular podcast Ideas That Make an Impact, and serving as CEO at Jones Media Publishing, the top-rated veteran-led book publishing company in Arizona. His book is called Your Book, BluePrint, and he is here to share how you can answer the call to write, publish, and promote your book using a unique process that he developed. Jeremy, hi, welcome to the show.
Hey, Desiree, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to talk to you. Okay, so many of us, I believe in my heart of hearts that we all have a book. Heck, most of us have many books inside of us, many different types of books. It might be poetry, it might be fiction, fantasy, it might be that business book. Why is it that you feel that people, why do you feel the compulsion to help people to write their books? What is it in you, Jeremy, that makes you want to help others?
That's such a great question. So I truly believe that each of us, although we learn from other places, we learn from other sources, we each have a unique perspective on life. For those that build a business and create something, if you're an entrepreneur, you're creating something, you have a unique perspective of maybe a method or a formula or a process or a blueprint that you've created what you do, or you help your clients to create a result. And so what I really enjoy doing is help taking that expertise and putting it into a formula that can be of value to other people beyond your circle of influence. That's the amazing thing about Amazon, is that you could publish a book on Amazon and have it available in paperback in Australia in a couple of weeks. It's unbelievable. So being able to bring value to people all over the world, it's just an incredible technology that we all have access to.
Yeah, and I can go down this rabbit hole with you because when you say bringing it to somebody in Australia, so this technology that we now have right there at our fingertips, this really didn't exist too long ago. And when I say too long ago, some people are going to be like, oh, we've been doing this for 20 years now. But 20 some years ago, self-publishing or being able to do this on your own, that was such a barrier. You couldn't do this. Or if you did become an author, you had to go through a lot of the traditional channels. What are your thoughts on how things have changed and how that's opened up opportunities for folks?
Yeah, it's really incredible, and you're right. So, even let's call it 20 years ago, it was an extremely slow process to get published. It still is a still slow process going through traditional publishing. Because they have a brand and a platform, they're extremely selective. I've spoke with people that have gotten rejected because they don't have, 100,000 followers on social media. They won't even have a conversation with you. And so a lot of the publishers are looking for authors that already have a platform. And the amazing thing about what we have with these social media profiles and advertising on Amazon is that we all have the potential to have that level of expansive reach, a worldwide reach, by building our own audience. Even if you have no audience, you can start and even run ads on advertising on Amazon and reach thousands and thousands and thousands of people. A lot of the things that we teach our authors to initially do is be on interviews just like this, and both fiction and nonfiction could do that. We have a specialty with nonfiction where we're helping, business people and experts publish nonfiction books that are teaching something, educating something, mindset, things like that. There's thousands of podcasts that you could be a guest on, and you could be a guest on a podcast and get your book in front of literally hundreds of thousands of people in a series of a couple of weeks. It's just incredible the reach that we all have access to.
I think what's amazing too is it's flipping the switch a little bit. Old publishing models where you came to them with something so spectacular that they were going to make you the superstar, and you were tapping into their reach and their influence. And nowadays, like you said, they want you to have the platform. And I think that's where a lot of authors are a little hesitant, because they're like, I have 5 people following me on Instagram. Or I hear this a lot of times. It's like, what's Instagram? What's SEO? Why should I do this? Oh, I don't want to do this. So you brought up the author platform. Can we dig into that a little bit more and talk about, maybe define that for the folks that might not be familiar with that term, and talk a little bit more about why that's so important nowadays?
Yeah, it's very, very important. So traditional publishers expect you to have some sort of an author platform, or at least an audience and a platform to sell your books to. If you have no audience, if you have no followers, it begins with you starting to build a platform. And all a platform is they are online assets that allow the process of building an audience of people that are interested in a topic that you have. It could start as simple as, like, one of the authors that we published recently is a health food coach and teaches people how to go vegan and lose weight. It could start as simply as, if you're interested in health and you want to help people with health, is starting a Facebook group or starting an Instagram group chat or a LinkedIn group around the idea of maybe professionals that want to feel good and have energy all day. It starts with building a community. When you build a community and you build an audience, that's a platform. So social media platforms allow us to put people into a similar group, a similar place where people can connect, they can ask questions, and you, as the facilitator of that, are perceived as a leader, because you are a leader. You're leading that tribe, is what some people call it, is like a tribe of people that are all interested in a similar topic. And that's the beginnings of building a platform and an audience.
Yeah, you're hitting a lot of notes that I just love. And I think it's important to, this is the Books That Make You Show. We often talk with authors about their books, and we gear ourselves a lot more heavily toward the readers. My day job, I do book marketing and promotions. And one of the things I stress to authors too, because now you're a publisher, so we're graying the lines, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
But what I like to tell authors too is, when you're on that path and you're building that platform, it starts long before the book is published. You should build it up. And whether you're going to seek a traditional publisher, or you're going to self-publish, or maybe you're somewhere in between with a hybrid press or a small press, etc., you're still going to need that audience, and you're still going to need that platform. It's just a matter of how you might end up using it. So either way, no matter which path you go down, that platform is so important. Now,
Yeah.
I want to ask you about what we're going to go back to what seems to inhibit people from becoming authors, because I think that's one of your key messages is people don't think they can do this. They don't think they have the right credentials. They don't think that they can build a platform. What are you hearing? What setbacks or objections do you hear most from potential authors?
Yeah. I'd say probably the most common one is all the information is out there. Why would someone listen to me? There's already plenty of books on this topic. And I can't remember who it was, but I think it was in the 40s or in the 20s. Someone had said, pretty much everything that's been invented has been invented. And if that was anywhere between now and when the internet came into place, we all know that that's not valid. There are always new innovations. Some are, small innovations that continually grow in industry, and some are very disruptive, like what the internet did with technology and with communication. So I'd say one of the things that I hear a lot is, how can what I know be of benefit to other people? And that's really a myth. Kind of like what I started with is the whole concept, which I deeply believe is true, is that we all have a unique perspective on life, how we grew up, our personal experiences, that your information that you share and your education will connect and resonate with readers that maybe they didn't get from anywhere else, that they didn't understand, that it wasn't insightful for them, or maybe an epiphany that you had about your health or your mindset or your business or the way that you do things resonates with that reader, whereas they didn't understand it before. And so you have a unique opportunity to communicate that with your body of work, which is, your books and programs and courses and all those things.
I think too, because we can now become so niche, the example you gave earlier about your author with vegan, and you're right, you can target a very succinct core, and you've got all of these tools at your fingertips: communities, online groups, newsletters, building your website. You just didn't have that in the past, not in that way. Media, once upon a time, I'm old enough to remember when there was 3 television channels. Remember that? And
they're
that
so
was
limited.
it. So limited. If you were an advertiser or promoting something, there was 3 channels you could essentially be on, and maybe PBS, right? But nowadays, you can really drill down and get into the heart and soul of that target audience. And I feel that can really make all the difference. Can you talk about then your strategy? Because you have done essentially the same thing, because you've gone rather niche. You're targeting business owners, you're targeting folks who have the need, the desire, and the ability to do this. How did you develop your strategy, Jeremy?
Yeah, so I believe it was 5 or 6 years ago, I started doing book publishing, and I was doing it for other authors initially. I was publishing books in a variety of different topics. I wanted to have my own book, and it was funny because at these authors that already had contents, it was no big deal. We put together everything, packaged the book. I got to where I was writing my own book, and I got sort of stuck. I was going through these same things that I coach people through of, is this information already out there? What's unique about it? And things like that. And so the process that I developed, Your Book Blueprint, is a structured, blueprinted process that takes the excitement that you have about writing a book and reduces the thing that normally stops people, which is overwhelm and that self-doubt. And the way that we remove the overwhelm and the self-doubt is by breaking anything that's overwhelming, that if you can take it and break it into smaller chunks and smaller pieces, one bite at a time, it reduces the overwhelm and you can overcome that procrastination. And so if you feel like if you actually get the insight that you have something of value to offer to other people, and you can get through the barrier of the overwhelm, you can begin to make the steps. The example I always like to give is like building a home. The idea of building your own home, like a custom home, let's say, even if it's a small home, doesn't need to be a massive home, even a small home is overwhelming. There's a lot of pieces to it. There's a lot of elements to it. And probably the worst thing that you could do, and this relates to writing a book, because I feel like a book is an asset, a long-term asset, just like a home is an asset. The way you don't build a custom home is just run over to the lumber yard because you get excited about, a 4 or 5 bedroom home that you would like to build, and you have these ideas. Go to the lumber yard, grab some lumber, throw it on the ground, and start hammering away. That's not the way you build a custom home. And that's the same way that a lot of first-time authors, they'll get excited or inspired about a particular idea that they really want to help people with. They'll open up a Google Doc, or they open up a Word doc, or whatever it is, and they'll just start typing away. They'll start hammering away at that lumber, and they get stuck. Almost every single time you get stuck, because you get inspired, you get excited, you start typing and typing and typing and typing, and without a structure, or what I call a blueprint that I have developed, without a blueprint like an architect would build out a blueprint for a home, it reduces the overwhelm, because now you have a blueprint that the workers that come in can now follow the blueprint and build it. And as an author, if you have a blueprint for what will be included in your book and all the elements and everything that's in the chapter, and it's organized in a well thought out, appropriate way, the building of the process of writing comes together without all of that overwhelm.
Yeah, you're nailing it. And sometimes too, you see that especially with first-time authors, they start to meander. They start to roll this way and that way. And then they don't know how to get things back on track. And this goes for nonfiction as well as fiction authors. It goes both ways.
Yep.
Quality is so important, and you're touching on this. Can you talk about the importance of quality and effective and high quality business book writing, please?
Yeah, for sure. So when you start with a blueprint and it's well structured, there's not a lot of rambling that happens. I find when you don't start with a well thought out, proper structure for the book, it creates an organization that it makes it a readable structure, so it's of value to the reader. When you ramble on topics or jump from one topic to another, the readability goes dramatically down. And if the reader that you want to inspire or impact gets stuck or it's confusing, they will stop and they will stop reading. And that's what happens with contents that gets really confusing. And it increases the complexity and the expense of an editor as well. If you don't have your book thoughts in an outline or a blueprint that's a well thought out outline, it dramatically increases the complexity of the editing process as well. So if you start with a well thought out outline and then you start to build out the contents, it begins to put together the book in a well organized, well thought out process that now when your book draft, you just do the first book draft, then you can put your attention, rather than restructuring and reorganizing, you're putting your attention on the little things. Like, how can I make this story stronger? Or how can I make this point stronger? And you're putting your thing that can make the contents that much more powerful for the reader, rather than those editing elements. They take care of themselves.
And you mentioned editing, and I do want to get into the importance of editing, finding the proper editors and all of that. First, though, could you discuss packaging your body of work as a subject matter expert? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so packaging your work is quality. So I see some people will come to us and say, I'm thinking about this book idea, but my challenge is I published a book in the past, it didn't sell, and so I didn't really even think this book is going to make any money. Well, I can easily look at someone's book, because I've worked with over 200 first-time authors, many of them first-time authors, some of them that have published before. And a few of them, probably a handful of them, have published previously and tried to self-publish in the past. And any of them that say, yeah, this book's not going to make, I want to publish this book, but this book's not going to make any money because my previous book didn't make any money. And then they have this stuck mindset that this book's not going to make any money. Well, you can go and there's indicators that you can look at to see. If your book cover looks like it was thrown together in PowerPoint, your results by far will be different than if your book looks like a professional book cover would look like. And we'll go back to the home example. Let's say you build a custom home. If you do all these crazy customizations and you have like this swooping roof and this really strange entrance, it might be creative and fun and you really enjoy it, but the resale value on that home will be terrible because nobody wants to live in this wacky, wild, creative house. Yes, there's room for creativity, but the same goes with a book. There are certain things that are industry standards by by the publishing industry, and but what makes a book readable and high quality. The first thing is the first impression, which is the book cover. It should be clear, the title should be clear, and it definitely should be clear who the book is for. And normally that goes with the subtitle, so you should have a good, strong subtitle. These are all elements that make up packaging your book. Then on the interior, it should be edited properly with an editor, and then it should be laid out properly. So that way the formatting looks good, and that all has to do with readability. If someone's trying to read your book and the kerning, meaning between the letters, is not right, the spacing between the paragraphs is not right, and this happens because Amazon is an amazing platform, but unfortunately they'll let you can basically upload a Word document and publish it on Amazon. And to think that you uploading a Word document and designing your book cover in PowerPoint would have the same results as having a professionally designed cover is like saying, well, I don't understand why my tent doesn't sell for 100,000, but this house sells for 100,000. I don't understand the difference. There's a big difference. It's the presentability to the marketplace.
So true. I just want to add on to that as somebody who does a lot of these shows. Sometimes I'll get books from nonfiction authors, and I can tell when it's well done because if I look at the chapter headers, a lot of times a very well done book, the chapter headers will essentially give me everything I need to do the interview because it's boom, boom, boom. It's right there. And that goes back to what you're talking about. It's all organized. It all makes sense. Even though it's nonfiction, there's a certain narrative arc to it, and it's well planned. And now I want to segue back into the importance of an editor. Can you talk about your philosophies, your thoughts on why it's so important to have a good editor, or I should probably say editors?
Yeah, for sure. So there's a couple of levels of editing. If your book is already written, and we have some people that come to us, they've already been working on their book privately and they haven't told anyone about it. And there's lots of cases like that. Normally you need a developmental edit. So either you're going to do that yourself or you're going to have an editor. It's usually a good idea to have a third party person do that. Developmental editing is structural, big picture, big pieces, readability, big picture stuff. Then you get down into the fine tuning with line editing and copy editing. So basically, an editor helps to reduce anything that would create stumbling points for a reader. It creates a high level of readability, no run-on sentences, clarity in your message, clarity in the points that you're making in each chapter. So an editor is like a third-party person to help with readability, because the bottom line is you want a good reader experience so that they get the value that you're hoping that you'll give them throughout the course of the book. So an editor helps to clean it up so that it's ready for that.
Thoughts on, and I know you work with nonfiction authors, but thoughts on fiction versus nonfiction. And in many ways, especially nowadays, we have business memoirs or business books or professional books that are pulling in stories or narratives. Do you see that as becoming more popular too?
I do, yeah. So, and we'll get combinations of nonfiction / memoir about their life or story or experience and things like that. So I'd say the biggest difference in my perspective of nonfiction and fiction is fiction has story arcs that you don't really even need to consider with nonfiction. Character consistency. So an editor would need to look for that more dynamic type of editing where they need to check for character consistency, scene consistency. So the reader is reading and they're not confused, like what's the scene here? What's going on? There's all of those things. It's fairly complex with story arcs and characters and consistency and things like that. With a nonfiction book, editing, a lot of it is looking for clarity of communication, that this chapter is in alignment with what the topic of the chapter is everything staying on point and is it clearly communicated? And then when it's fine tuned, they both will check for grammar, spelling, sentence structure. And again, it's for the value of the readability, that as the reader is reading through the book, they almost get lost while you're reading. And a lot of you listening have probably experienced this. As you're reading, you almost get lost in it. But if you get stuck where you notice a typo or something, you almost stop and you forget. You forget you're lost in this story or the thing that the author is talking about. You get lost in it and you remember, oh, I'm reading a book and there's this mistake here, or this thing is really it's hard on my eyes with the spacing that's in here. You don't want the reader thinking about that. You want them just kind of getting lost in what you're communicating.
What benefits do you feel that a business person or a professional can achieve if they release a book beyond book sales? Because everybody's like, oh, I want to make $1 million selling my books. And well, that's not so easy to do. But there's other things that they can make money on, and there's other ways they can fulfill themselves. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. So there's two sides to making money with a book. There's what I call the front end sales, which is the book sales. Mm-hmm. And so if you get your marketing right, you optimize it right on Amazon, you get your keywords and categories properly, and then you have a good structured, consistent book marketing strategy that you can implement yourself or you can delegate to someone else. That's book sales. Then what you're describing there is what I call the back end of the book sales. So I recommend for everyone to have something like that. And it could be as simple as an online course. We have a lot of our authors that will help build their very first online course, and that's the back end sales. So if you imagine, the example I always like to give, because it's pretty consistent, we can help authors get to, around 600 to 1,000 book sales in a month. So 600 book sales in a month is 20 book sales a day. So a lot of people think, oh, I want to sell all these books and yeah, I want to make $1 million with a book. Well, let's start with trying to get 20 book sales a day. Let's see if we can get there, because it's very profitable. I mean, you sell 20 paperback book sales a day. That's rough. You're going to make roughly $5 per print book that you sell. $5 times 100 sales a day is $100. 20 book sales a day times $5 profit is 100 book sales a day. In 30 days, that's $3,000 a month in royalties. That's 600 for business people out there, 600 customers. 600 people have purchased your book. Mm-hmm. Out of those 600 customers, you're building trust, authority, credibility. People are getting to know you through the course of your stories and your value and the information that you're sharing. Out of those 600 people a month, in that example, there will be a percentage of those people that will go, hey, I wonder if this person could help me further. And what we recommend to a lot of authors is to have a subtle, not in a self-promotional way, but subtle complementary resource that you could bring the reader to. I'll give the example again, Kelly, because he's got such a great book. He's the vegan expert on how to go vegan. He lost 65 pounds and it transformed his life. He wrote this book about going vegan and what it means and how it works and why he recommends it for a lot of people. And we put smoothie recipes, I think is what we did in his. So he has like smoothie recipes. So the reader is reading this book. This is fantastic. Kelly talks about all these smoothie recipes. Now I need to go find smoothie recipes. And Kelly, what I recommend in his book is, wait a minute, why don't we just give it to the readers? So the readers would go to his website for free, download some smoothie recipes that he has compiled for them to save the time for them. Now all of a sudden, Amazon's customer, because when you sell a book on Amazon, it's Amazon's customer. Now you start to get a percentage of those people that will go to your website and they become part of your audience. And so that's how you can build an audience from your book buyers to then upgrade them so you can bring more value to them. Like Kelly now has an online course and a coaching program and things like that. And that's how you begin to be profitable on the back end.
And that's what you mean by book marketing leverage, right? You're leveraging.
That's
things.
Book marketing leverage. Exactly. You're leveraging sales from customers that they are completely outside of your circle of influence. So someone could be searching for vegan recipes on Amazon, like a book on vegan recipes, find his book, buy it and go, oh, he's also got these recipe things, download it from his site, and then they become a customer and buy his course. So it's leveraging your marketing beyond your circle of influence. So that way you can put the Amazon search engine to work to help you find customers on the back end as well.
And there's so much potential there with other merchandise too. I mean, heck, he could start selling
Unlimited, yeah.
smoothie mixes and products and things and expand.
Yeah, and I know a lot of your audience is in fiction, and I like creatively coming up with ideas with fiction authors as well. So if a lot of your audience is fiction, think about you could create a line of merch, your characters in your stories. You could create hats and mugs or whatever, maybe funny sayings that they say in your book. You could create a line of merch and sell merch, or have a YouTube channel where there's things that you can do to build an audience, even with fiction books. But I highly recommend all authors have some sort of a back end to, at a minimum, build an email list and an audience. But ideally, to make it as profitable as possible, is to create something you can monetize on the back end that's relevant to your book.
Exactly. Okay. And we've only touched on your book. So your book is called Your First Book Blueprint. So people, if they want to learn more, they can go and they can get your book, and it's available on Amazon. Can you give us the details?
Yeah, it's called Your First Book Blueprint. It goes through a lot of the things that we've covered here, but in more detail, of blueprinting out your book. The biggest part of it is beginning with the end in mind, thinking about how this book can not only serve readers, not only serve people in a big way by helping them with a particular topic for a nonfiction book, but that's the majority of what it's talking about for a nonfiction book, but also how to build a blueprint to be profitable on the back end as well. So we have it bundled right now with a 14-day rapid writing workshop. It's a workshop that I developed where it takes you, here's what you do day 1, here's what you do day 2, day 3, day 4, and it puts you into a process of a habit of developing that rapid habit formula to get you into that habit of avoiding the procrastination that normally creeps up when you're starting to write a book, to reduce the overwhelm, so you have an action step of something you can do to get your book written. And then we kind of go through what's involved in the rest of the process. And we have a special deal going on right now on yourbookblueprint.com, and to get the ebook and some other material there as well.
Excellent. Jeremy Jones. One more time, give folks your details, your website. Where can they go to find out more about you, your books, and your program?
Yeah, for sure. So you can get my podcast is on askjeremyjones.com. And if you'd like that 14-day writing workshop in my book, Your Book Blueprint, you can get that at yourbookblueprint.com. Thanks, Desiree. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, Jeremy. Thank you for being with us today. And thank you as well for joining us on the Books That Make You show. You can find out more about us on our website. It's booksthatmakeyou.com. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, ring the bell, get notifications, and leave a couple of comments and engage with the platform. It all helps us grow so much. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our Webby award-winning Books That Make You newsletter so you never miss out on news, interviews with fine folks like Jeremy, and other bookish goodies. Until next time, all of my bookish buddies, please enjoy all of the books that make you exactly who you are.
The host and executive producer of the Books That Make You show is Desiree Duffy. Sound mastering and engineering by Dave Napox. Social media and content promotion by Siddhi Jahagirdar. Copywriting and editing by Mike Robinson. The Books That Make You show is an award-winning podcast produced by Black Chateau Enterprises.